We're in the business of saving lives. We spend millions of dollars to place stations, to place trucks, to place manpower, to get training, and if we're not called out to use that, it's all in vain. This cannot happen again.
Tonight, a KSL exclusive. We have uncovered that medical crews were delayed in responding to an avalanche in American Fork Canyon. And that delay may have changed the outcome of a young woman's life. BYU student Ashley Cox died almost 3 weeks ago after being buried alive in an avalanche while snowshoeing. Well, tonight, News Special Shara Park has discovered something went wrong with her rescue. Shara?
Well, Mike, the Lone Peak Fire District's Cedar Hill Station sits right behind me here. It's about 90 seconds from the base of American Fork Canyon, and it's this crew that works here that is supposed to be dispatched when there's a medical emergency in the canyon. Well, on the evening that Ashley Cox was buried alive, that call came too late.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
It's Tibble Creek Reservoir. There's an avalanche. We've lost someone there.
On February 8th, at about 5:28 p.m., 21-year-old Ashley Cox was snowshoeing with 5 friends when she was swept into a creek and buried by an avalanche. While friends and strangers worked to find her, a man sledding nearby drove down the canyon for cell service to call 911.
She said, "We lost a friend. We had an avalanche just come down on her. We can't find her."
That call was answered by the Utah Valley Dispatch Special Service District at 5:40 p.m., 12 minutes after the slide. Through a public records request, KSL learned 3 deputies from the Utah County Sheriff's Office were immediately sent to the scene. 1 from Provo Canyon, 1 from Eagle Mountain, and 1 from Orem. Then starting at 5:44 p.m., dispatch made multiple attempts to reach the Utah County Sheriff's Office on-call search and rescue.
This is Sergeant Williams with Utah County Sheriff's Office.
During this time, a Lone Peak officer overheard the emergency and volunteered to go to the scene.
Valley 11, I'm not too far away from the booth. If I do canyon, I can head there.
At 5:47, the search and rescue sergeant finally calls in.
This is 502. I just got it.
Yeah, we have an avalanche. We have a female down.
All this time, 3 teams with the Lone Peak Fire District, trained in avalanche rescue, sat less than 2 minutes from the base of American Fork Canyon, unaware of an avalanche. Were they officially dispatched by?
No, we were never dispatched. We had to self-dispatch on this call.
At 5:50 p.m., a full 10 minutes after the 911 call, dispatch sent out that tone, which tells Lone Peak Fire District to call in for information. Battalion Chief 201 then learned of the avalanche.
You want us to head that direction? Or?
That's up to you. We're just giving you a heads up at this time because we don't have any, confirmation or anything yet.
What stands out the most is how kind of nonchalant the call was and leaving it up to us. And, we have a person that's trapped under the water that's going without oxygen.
A witness statement from that day says Cox was found and pulled from the water at about 5:45 p.m., about 17 minutes after the slide. Friends performed CPR as the Lone Peak officer ran back and forth to his car to relay information.
When they have gotten to and they start CPR, not conscious, not breathing.
A dispatch log shows the Lone Peak ambulance arrived at the scene at 6:06 p.m., about 26 minutes after the 911 call.
Do you know why you guys weren't dispatched first?
That's
Is there an explanation?
I haven't found out yet. That's the big question of the day.
Had the ambulance been dispatched when the 911 call came in, it likely would have been on scene 10 minutes earlier. Would those 10 minutes have made a difference in Ashley Cox's survival?
Absolutely. I can't say she would have lived. I can't say she wouldn't, but I do know that she would have had oxygen going to her brain. That's that same amount of time.
And we have contacted the Utah Valley Dispatch Special Service District multiple times requesting an interview, wanting to find out if this was a dispatcher error or if this was a protocol issue at the dispatch center, but they have declined our request, and they did send us a statement. The statement just listed some of the times of the things that happened, and at the bottom of the statement it says a review of the events are being conducted. Mike?
Yeah, well, those questions definitely need to be answered. All right, Shara Park live for us tonight in Cedar Hill. Shara, thank you.
Only on KSL, a BYU student's life was on the line, but medical crews were delayed. Now, a Utah dispatch center admits they made a mistake.
The policy actually does say that both should be sent.
We first told you about the dispatch delay in sending paramedics to Ashley Cox, was buried in an avalanche in American Fork Canyon a few weeks ago. Tonight, news specialist Shara has answers as to what went wrong and shows us how uncovering this story will change emergency response for everyone in Utah County.
Right now, Tibble Fork Reservoir looks like this. Beautiful, serene. But on the evening of February 8th, a small avalanche created a nightmare for a group of BYU students.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
It's Tibble Creek Reservoir. There's an avalanche. We've lost someone there.
Can someone ask her?
That 911 call went to Utah Valley Dispatch Special Service District. At the time, a dispatcher entered a code for a search and rescue, which prompted her to notify law enforcement, but not medical crews. It wasn't until 10 minutes later that paramedics at the bottom of the canyon, trained in avalanche rescue, learned of the emergency.
You want us to head that direction, or?
That's up to you. We're just giving you a heads up at this time.
So in this case, the dispatcher would have been required to manually create a call, and that did not happen at the same time as the initial call being created.
That mistake and code kept Lone Peak paramedics from being on scene as 21-year-old Ashley Cox was pulled from this creek. Instead, Cox's friends performed CPR on her until they arrived. Once on scene, paramedics did get a pulse on Cox, but she died the next day.
Could that have changed the outcome if your crews had been there even 10 minutes?
Absolutely. I can't say she would have lived, I can't say she wouldn't, but I do know that she would have had oxygen going to her brain that same amount of time.
Since KSL highlighted the problem with the dispatch code, administrators have made changes. They created several new search and rescue codes to ensure that they send medical help when someone is possibly hurt.
And now we've actually created 4 new codes, 2 of which will prompt medical.
Dispatchers are also getting more training.
Appropriate action has been taken so that that mistake won't happen again in the future.
What happened to Cox weighs heavily on the minds of not only dispatchers, but Lone Peak paramedics who tried to save her life. So now they're renewing their push for an emergency phone in American Fork Canyon.
1.2 million people use that canyon a year. So that equates to a lot of people recreating there, and so we believe that it would be beneficial to have a phone up at the Tibble Fork area.
An emergency phone at Tibble Fork would cut down the 10 to 15 minute drive down the canyon for cell service. 10 to 15 minutes that could save a life.
I just think time is of essence, because the last thing we want to do is to be caught up in red tape and have this happen again.
Shara Park, KSL 5 News.
The Lone Peak Fire District has set up an account at Bank of American Fork in the name of Ashley Cox for those who want to donate towards an emergency phone in American Fork Canyon. They want to raise $5,000, then submit a proposal to the U.S. Forest Service, who told KSL Today that they're open and willing to discuss the idea.